So as the boys grew and we were a young family and getting them integrated with sports and activities, and hockey was first and foremost. Being a French Canadian, Montreal Canadiens hockey fan, and now Toronto Maple Leaf, sadly to say. I got the kids involved with skating right away, and local community hockey league. Sat in the stands for the first little bit of all, maybe 10 minutes, until I applied to maybe be an assistant coach or open the door for the kids or assist in any way that I could. The following year, I asked if I could be a coach and maybe help, the league as a convener or whatever. But they gave me a team, and I was a coach and did that for about 10 years. When you've got that responsibility of guiding those young children that are 8 years old, or 7 or 9 years old, right away, as I was watching from the stands for a little bit of time and wanted to just, and which brings about an interesting piece that I also have learned over the years, and that is, don't be a spectator in your own life. Get on the field of your life and grab the ball and run with it for a touchdown. And that's how I model my life, kind of thing. It's time for me to step up. I need to be a coach. If there was going to be anybody that was going to take that responsibility to make sure that we built the right character in those children, was going to be me. I certainly didn't want to delegate that to anybody else. It's too much at risk. There's a lot of bad coaches out there. But on this particular case, I wanted to be the one that was going to take that as a responsibility. So I approached the coaching like a professor at university, or like a president of a large corporation. Not so much in the act, but in my dedication to it and my commitment to it. And every parent that wanted to be on the ice at practice was welcome. Everybody was involved. Whether I needed plus and minus stats, shots on net, saves, everybody was involved. And it made for a tremendous, beautiful experience, not only for the parents, but for the kids as well. I cherish those years. And as I come home every night from work, I pass by Vic Village Arena on Bermondsey. I think fondly of that building as I spent 10 years coaching Lucas, and then another 10 years with Elijah. So I was in that rink for some 20 plus years, because they're 10 years apart. And remember it as a wonderful gift of community. We had some success. I could bring the kids up. I had an easel, and black magic markers, come up there and say, what are your thoughts on today's game, and what should be your our game plan? And one day I just said, well, let me see if I can give them a gift at the end of the year, a book, because they were at that 11-year-old, 12-year-old stage where they're formative. They're coming off the childhood thing. They don't think you're God that much anymore, but they're still kind of in a molding kind of, which route am I going to go? Am I going to go good, or am I going to go bad here? What's the meaning of life? What do I stand for here? What's this all about? And I gave them all a book with a little handwriting for every child, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And I gave them all the book. I don't know why, but and I had nobody come back to me and say, look, what are you doing to my child? They all accepted it and loved it. It was just something that I could transfer what I had learned corporately in my professional life over to those children. We live in a world now where core values are under attack, and they're being eroded into extinction. This is the best time for us to shine a light on those core values and take a stand for them. There's no better time because there's a lot of other folk out there that are thinking the very same thing, but are understated. They don't want to say anything. They're living in fear, but yet they value the very same core values that we all do. And if you're going to build an organization or you're going to build a company and you've got those core values at the very forefront of your culture, you're going to attract those people. They're going to come to you. So they do two things when you stand for those core values, and that is they attract like-minded individuals that share the same core values that you have, and they flush out anybody that doesn't have the same core values. They stick out like a sore thumb. So it allows you to build a team of championship players and develop a real profitable organization. And our children have received the benefit of our core values, Catherine and I's, for the better part of their entire life. We've had a functional household. There's been harmony. There's been love. There's been appreciation. There's been gratitude. There's been empowerment, encouragement, all of the values that we should abide for in today's society. And they're respectable individuals, they're polite, and they stand where they stand. Lucas, who's 28 years old, he called to ask me about a core value. And there was a broken stove that his roommate had broken. As a matter of fact, it wasn't his roommate that broke it, it was his girlfriend. It was a $1,000 repair, and he was asking me as to what he should do and whether or not he should call the landlord to get the stove fixed. I says, well, actually, it's your responsibility. You are the tenant, and you caused the damage, and unfortunately, it's gonna fall on you. I said the best way to resolve the issue is by splitting the cost 50-50 with your roommate. And he says, well, that's rather unfair. I didn't break the stove. His girlfriend did. I says, I understand that, but I said, you need to put the relationship higher than the actual financial cost. And he said, well, okay, but that's not fair. I said, I understand that, but that's the right thing to do. So as we were reflecting on the 50-50 cost-sharing basis and the fact that he had to take responsibility and it wasn't the landlord's responsibility, he then suggested, well, since my roommate's girlfriend did it, perhaps we can split it 3 ways. I says, even better. If she would be taking responsibility for her own situation, which she caused the damage, then the 3 of you can really share the cost. And I thought that was also a fair play. In leadership, if we're going to influence people and we're going to lead people, you've got to show them your heart. And they've got to see it. And if you can't show your heart and for them to see it, you're not going to be able to get the following, the influence that you need to help them grow in their own respectives so they can become leaders. I'm currently in a leadership lab as a lead for a private equity firm that we have the privilege of being their insurance advisors to, and they've brought me in as part of their leadership team to drive down the culture of aspiring, emerging leaders, to really lead with integrity, to really lead with authenticity, with truth, with good character. And I love doing it. It's the product of my journey. That individual that started that private equity company that has allowed me in to become one of their leaders within the organization happens to be one of the parents that experienced my coaching when his son was 8 years old. But, you know, uh, core values are, are eroding in today's society, and they're under attack. And there's so much at stake for the future of the next generation of emerging leaders that there's no better time than to share what those core values are and to uphold them. Where the light shines most is in a dark place, and the world is currently in a very dark place. What is the future of our civilization if we remove God out of the equation? So Isaiah 41, verse 10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Powerful, powerful. And claiming that is liberty in Christ. A great example of this verse is in 2006, when I started my own insurance brokerage. We had a mortgage, we had a couple of children, we had financial commitments, and I risked it all and anchored on this verse. I trusted God to help us through the transition with the conviction of the fact that if this verse was true, then I really had no fear if it was driven and guided by the Holy Spirit. In addition, Catherine, God bless her, encouraged me with a very simple sentence. And I remember it as if it was yesterday. And she says, it doesn't matter if we have to go live in a basement apartment. I'm with you. And that's all I needed. I hit the ground running, and the rest is history. There's no possibility, zero possibility, that I could have done what I've accomplished professionally, personally, spiritually, without Catherine. We're on the eve of celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary in 2022, on May 30th. And as I was reflecting on this weekend, where we've got a little retreat planned, and how thankful, appreciative I am by having a spouse created, designed, and provided just for me. And Catherine's brought the encouragement that I needed to rise to any challenge out there. And I equate it to a three-pronged relationship. We've got each other, we've got the Lord in this oneness battle against the principalities of darkness to build a union under a marriage to really help each other be the best that we can together. And without Catherine, it'd be impossible. My journey has been one miracle after another. And the length of the challenges that I've had through life have been God ordained. If there's one piece of advice that I could give to aspiring, emerging leaders, or even somebody struggling with their own lives with some of the areas that need work or change, is to make a decision. Start with a decision and stand firm in that decision. And then commit yourself to really accomplishing that goal of that decision, whatever change that is, and for however long it takes. And be kind to yourself in the wilderness. There is hope, and you just need to stand firm. And it starts with a decision. So an example of a decision is in my own life when at the age of 33 years of age, when I had reached the end of what I thought was the path that I needed to be traveling was a dead end, I needed to make a decision. And that decision reflected on my own life and how I needed to change in order for me to travel the path that had no end. And so you'll reach these paths in your life, how many different paths that there are through career changes, relationship breakdowns, friendship breakdowns, where you'll need to make a decision. And you need to use that opportunity and to really decide how you're going to make a change in your life on a different path that has no dead end. Personally, I'm just thankful that I had the courage to make that decision. For me, it was either life or death. And when you've built a business based on utmost good faith, which is the basis of our industry, trust is a non-negotiable. It's difficult to own up to integrity, but you've got to live it. If your word is not valued, and if it's not recognized as thyself, and you don't follow through on your word, then you lose your credibility. You lose the influence that you have. And it erodes away at your core values. I'm not at this point of my career or my journey in life to jeopardize those core values, as my goal is to finish well. You know, when you're running a business and you're dealing with the public, as a service, you will encounter all kinds of people. And if you are grounded on non-negotiable core values, the way that we've built our business, the darkness is easily identifiable. It really does stick out like a sore thumb. And I can share that over the last 50 years, the business that we've built, all of our clients, we have no conflict with any one of them. But it's been a long triaging process to make sure that our value system was embedded into the client, and then they referred the same kind of clients because we attracted the kind of business that we were modeling. They've got to see your heart. They've got to see who you are. And your heart is actually an unknown. It's a big unknown. Only the Lord knows your heart. You don't know your own heart, and neither does anybody else. And that's why you ought not to put your trust in man, but in the Lord. And that's been a little bit of a revelation to me at this point of my life. It just goes to show us how the Lord can transform us, where he can transform your heart from a broken heart or a hardened heart or a heart filled with anger and all of the darkness that exists in this world, and mold it and change it into a heart of compassion, understanding, kindness, self-control. It's nothing short of a miracle. As you get down the road a little further in your journey of life, you've got to continuously work out. You've got to work on your spirituality, on an eternal perspective. And it brings me back to a verse in James, chapter 4, verse 3. When you ask, you do not receive, because you ask with the wrong motive, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. I've had to be really, really patient for a really, really long time for the Lord to reveal what the next plan is for my life. And those seasons can be very, very long. And they can be with others that you currently are in relationships with that are difficult or challenging at best, or whereby you have a different set of values with the other person. But for whatever reason, you're in that relationship. And you need to be patient in those relationships for as long as it takes. And these relationships of these situations can last for years. And patience is the gentle, quiet sense of just being and just waiting until the next season of life. As I reflect now after 50 years, those core values really come to the forefront. I now recognize as, yeah, the struggle was worth it. And that is the new meaning of my life. In the fact that I've achieved every goal that I've set out to achieve. You may call it serendipity. I call it a miracle after a miracle for having had the willpower to withstand the challenges that were before me. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. And that's the kind of grit that you need to just be successful at everything. I've listened to successful people. I've listened to people that have accomplished tremendous feats in their lives and looked at all kinds of folks that have manifested tremendous change in their lives and in the people around them through influence, through motivation. And the common denominator to all of those folks, whether it's in business or whether it's in athletics or anywhere else in their lives where it provides significant change, has been through a common denominator called grit. And it's the spirit of whatever it takes to get it done. I was reflecting on the endurance aspect of my commitment to train daily and the enjoyment that I now have from the investment of some 40 plus years of athletic dedication. Athletics take you to a whole different place. Athletics and endurance type style events take you to a place where it's impossible physically to complete it. It's all mental. It's the only way you can reach the finish line because your body is telling you to stop every step of the way because it hurts. The pain is it's all about pain, but it's the management of that pain. It's how your mind works through that pain. It's how you somehow allow yourself to feel the pain and manage it, and the way that the body restores and repairs itself through the event is astonishing. And I couldn't have done this journey without the athletics. It'd be impossible. Just because you need to be physically, mentally fit to do the work that I do professionally And athletic has been the common denominator for me to achieve that level of persistence over the 50 years. Grit has always been with me. And I can remember in elementary school, in grade maybe 2, 3, 4, in Quebec, in French Canada, and being able to just have a sense of tenacity. I could outrun pretty well every kid in the school. Why? How? Just pure grit. And it's the same kind of DNA that I've been born with that's allowed me the opportunity to come back to the fork in the road with Diane Bolus and really kind of do that open heart surgery. And with that grit and that endurance, I was able to then come to the place where I was able to take that new path to reconcile my life before Christ and become the person He had created me to be. In September of 2017, I had reached a plateau in my athletic journey. I realized at that point in time that through athletics, it wasn't going to get me there, and I needed to make a change nutritionally at the cellular level. I had gone from 175 pounds to 150 pounds in 30 days. And that was the experiment with a nutritionist. And this morning, I got on the scale and I was 147 pounds. Not only I had maintained my goal, but I had gone beyond it. And the reflection piece on it is, as a core value, is commitment. Making a decision and committing yourself to that decision. Because it's going to be twists and turns. It's never a straight path. But the vision must be the goal. Just like when you work out physically, you need to work out spiritually. It's like a muscle. And spending time in the Word, spending quiet time in the morning, being in fellowship with other mentors that are in the Word, we're all traveling together to eternity. We're traveling the same path. And that's the beauty of this journey in Christ, is you can enjoy eternal life right now. And I'm so thankful that somebody tapped me on the shoulder back at that church when I was a lost soul to invite me to consider a spiritual dimension to my life. We're blinded by this world that we live in by investing in our worldly peace and not thinking from a spiritual and an eternal perspective. To store our treasures up in heaven and to start investing into your eternal perspective. When you start to really see and open your eyes, the revelation of truth really comes forth. And my hope is that we can encourage you to consider the spiritual dimension of your life. Hebrews 11, verse 6. It's by faith. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. Because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. And that's been the testimony of my life. And it's been based on trust. It's been based on belief. And sometimes there are no answers. There's simply a sense of faith and trusting that faith is going to lead you on the righteous path. You know, faith is often referred as a childlike faith. I think of a child, let's say a 3, 4-year-old, 5-year-old child. And what does a childlike faith look like in that context in relationship with their parents? they have no understanding of belief, value systems, core values. They just go on about living as a child with a blind, trusting faith. And the Lord challenges us and asks us to make sure that we continue in that childlike faith for the rest of our lives as we continue to grow and mature and learn about biblical principles, about biblical teaching, and about the spiritual nature of our being. He's our Father. I don't have all the answers, but I need to be obedient. I need to be sensitive to the guidance, and I need to have a childlike faith in the fact that I don't need to have all the answers. This project, I like to call it project, is to affect change, is to inspire. It's to encourage, it's to empower, it's to help. If it can change one person, it'll all be worth it. It's not for the faint-hearted. You've got to have the courage to. But the other side of the door is freedom. It's peace, peaceful mind, new heart, a whole new wiring system, new belief system. It's transformational, but it's worth it. Totally worth it. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Anchor there, victoriously, once and for all.